Did you ever want something so badly, but you couldn't have it? I mean, there was no way that you were going to get it. Or did you ever want something so badly and you had it, and then you lost it? I'm sure you know what it's like to yearn for something so much that it almost hurts inside. I'll tell you one of my stories this morning. A year ago, my wife Anitra and I wanted to have another child, but we found that we couldn't. And it was around this time, right around Thanksgiving, that we found out that there was a young woman in Utah who was pregnant with a little girl and who had decided to put her child up for adoption. And she had chosen us to be the parents. It was more than a blessing to us, it was like a miracle. One of the things about adoption is that it begins with a loss. It begins with the grief of a mother giving up her child. I'll never forget walking into the hospital nursery and seeing a tiny little 4-pound, 15-ounce baby wrapped in swaddling cloth and feeling so blessed that I was going to be privileged to be her father. The love felt like a flower in my heart that I didn't know was there, that suddenly burst into bloom. About 24 hours later, we began to bundle her up to leave the hospital. We got onto our knees by the birth mother's hospital bed, and we all held hands and said a prayer. And I'll never forget the pain of watching the tears streaming down this beautiful woman's face as she said goodbye with a kiss and handed her baby to us. At that moment, I felt inside me a ripping of the fabric of life. And I took a torn piece of it and I wrapped it around the flower that was blooming in my soul. You know, Thanksgiving is like that. It's kind of like a flower wrapped in a piece of torn fabric. It has love and loss and celebration all mixed together. We celebrate with friends and family and people we love, and there's always a mighty cloud of witnesses of loved ones who've left an empty chair at the table. And yet we celebrate anyway, despite the separations that come with death and distance and divorce, and due to wars that we're fighting overseas. At the same time, we welcome to our tables new babies, a fiancé, college kids, and other kids who are now adults at the table, and the military personnel who have thankfully lived and come home alive. Thanksgiving is a celebration and an opening of our hearts in the midst of loss. And it was the same way with the very first Thanksgiving. The pilgrims who had come to these shores with great hopes for a new life, they lost and buried half of their population during the first winter due to disease and other conditions. Half of their people. Out of 102, only 4 women lived to celebrate the first Thanksgiving. And of course, the native peoples were about to lose so many and so much. That's why Thanksgiving is about giving thanks for what we have. Not for the things that we wish we had, or the things that we want or lack or long for. But Thanksgiving is about celebrating the blessings that we have. It's also about remembering the people who we've lost and celebrating the love that they gave us that is still with us. Love, once given away, can never die. And so that love we have forever. A flower that blooms in the heart leaves its essence, and it becomes a part of us. So even after the fabric of life is torn by death, our job is to take a piece of that fabric and wrap it around the flower that is born of love. And this cloth each of us carries in our heart is filled with the fragrance and the essence of all the people that we have loved and who have loved us. And so part of Thanksgiving is about taking out that sacred cloth that resides in our heart and putting it up to our face and getting a whiff of the bouquet that we've created with our love. Because as the Bible says, and as experience bears out, God is love and love is God. And so when we breathe into our nostrils the various fragrances of love, we are inhaling the very essence of the divine. And when we bring of our bounty to share with those who are hungry, as we've done this morning, we're helping to stitch together some of the torn pieces of life's fabric that surrounds us. And when we are willing to acknowledge the facts, but also avoid taking sides over whether Thanksgiving is a triumph to be celebrated or a tragedy to be mourned, we are helping to stitch together the pieces that human injustice have rent apart. And we are helping create a patchwork quilt with our lives and with our love.